You guys ready? I'm going to give you the strongest 1-2 punch combo I've ever done on anybody on the internet. Here's clip one.
Right now, we've all jerked it to Lolly at some point or another. We have at some point in our lives been going fucking crazy on some hentai site, and we've been fucking stroking as hard and fast as we can, and then after we nut, we go back, look over our history tab, and we go like, oh geez, some of these girls looked pretty young. Okay, I don't give a fuck.
So I made a video going over the Vaush versus H3 drama that's been happening. And for a quick recap, political streamer Vaush, he accidentally exposed his to be sorted folder, right? He was trying to save a picture. Well, he was actually trying to open up a window, and he accidentally clicked the save as button, and then it showed that folder.
You can see this is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
What? And that folder had a bunch of deviant stuff in there, and we've been discussing this, and H3 was, did a stream going over it and showing how it has horse stuff and what you would call lolicon or whatever people call it, and what that is just sexual drawings of little children essentially, so it's like illustrations of CP essentially. And it has these like little girls doing, horrible things with horses. And it seems pretty cut and dry what type of stuff Vaush is into. And I would say most normal people would find that irreprehensible and be like, that's disgusting. The horse stuff is one thing. Like, some people think it's hilarious to be into being animals or fantasizing about being an animal. Like he says he wants to be the horse.
I'll make it clear. You can write this down. I want to fuck a woman as a horse. None of this is a secret. To be clear, many jokes have been made about this, but I stand by it.
And then it's another thing to actually partake in it. And I don't know, man. It's all weird to me. I think being attracted to animals or wanting to be an animal or anything like that, I think that's kind of insane. But obviously, it's nothing in comparison to the lolly stuff, because the lolly stuff is absolutely insane. And what is really damning is that the H3 podcast, Ethan Klein, they went over the stuff because like Vaush had a response, and there's a lot of people that reacted to H3's stream on this whole situation that went down this past Friday. And so H3 did a stream yesterday on the 12th, and today is the 13th. And I am just kind of blown away with what I saw, because I don't know that much about Vaush. Like, I've been on a stream with him before. He seemed very friendly, and I know I've seen a lot of like arrogant clips of him. He seemed like an arrogant person. And as he lost weight, he became even more arrogant because he's like, hey, look how good I look. It happens. People do it all the time. But my main point of my video yesterday was talking about the cult of personality and how people like have these parasocial relationships and how it's absolutely going to come into play. Like, it already did, but it's still ongoing. Even with Ethan streaming yesterday and just compiling all of these arguments that Vaush has kind of made excusing Lolly. Also making arguments and talking about how anyone who's into this stuff, there's definitely a connection to you having an attraction to children. It's you have to ask yourself, why do you like this stuff? Let's pretend. Let's not pretend like that's the thing. Because you see a lot of people that partake in this stuff, they use the excuse that, oh, it's just drawings. Who cares? It's not real. They try to brush it off as that. And we all know, all us normal people, everybody else, the vast majority of people know that's BS, because you can be into drawings, you can be into anime, but what type of anime do you watch? Right? None of it's real. But like, I name dropped a handful of video game characters, like from Darkstalkers and Street Fighter, King of Fighters and stuff, all these like hot ass girls, all these women that are drawn like extremely sexual, you know, big thigh Chun-Li, you know, big boobs, big thighs, big butt Rainbow Mika, you know, like stuff like that. Huge boobies Mai from King of Fighters. Like I was using examples of stuff like, here's cartoons essentially, here are drawings, here are sprites, and I'm like, you know, as a kid, I'm like, oh, that's hot. And there was no like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, here's this that looks like a little baby or whatever. You know what it's stupid. It's a terrible argument. Just because it's not real doesn't mean you're not a freak. Like, you're into some crazy stuff. And Vaush had admitted that as much. And so, with that understanding, and what H3 was trying to make a point of is that Vaush keeps saying that, whoa, all this stuff has been done to death. I've addressed this over and over again. This is moot point, and you're arguing in bad faith, and so on and so forth. And Ethan makes the argument, no, new information has been presented. The new information is your to be sorted folder. Now that you have Lolly on there, everything you've said in the past has a very different perspective. He actually uses as an example saying, you know how there was that one LA detective that had an amazing conviction rate. Then they found out, oh, some of the convictions aren't credible. They've had to overturn some of the stuff because there was fraud. There was a bunch of illegal activity going on, planted evidence, false testimony, blah, blah, blah. So then they started looking at other cases and seeing a pattern and seeing, yo, this guy's been doing this stuff and he's an absolute criminal. He's an absolute piece of trash. And so we used that as an example, as an analogy, and I thought that was actually pretty solid because, yeah, people looked at this guy a certain way, but then now when new evidence was introduced, it's like, no, we got to look at him in a completely different lens. And that's essentially what we're doing with Vaush, where he's talking about these arguments about Lolly and owning CP and this and morality and guilt and all this stuff. And essentially saying, if you don't feel guilty about using an iPhone that, you know, that could use child slave labor or whatever, you shouldn't feel guilty about owning CP or something. And it's just a bad argument because, you know, something like cell phones, something like technology and a lot of things that are made can be made humanely. They can exist outside of those horrible conditions. And most people are 100% ignorant to a lot of that stuff. They never think about that stuff until they're educated and they're enlightened about like the horrors of owning some Nikes or something like that. Versus owning CP, there is only one thing. You're staring at the horror. You're staring at the abuse. You go into an understanding what this is and what had to happen for this to even exist. Like, it's not the same thing. So he tries to make this argument of guilt-free if you're going to ignore this. Like, oh, we're all hypocrites. And I'm like, that is a crazy argument to make. But that is something that he was talking about, which was very suspicious, right? But it's like, okay, whatever. But then when you see this folder and the stuff that he's had in it, all of a sudden you're like, what's going on here? And so when I made my previous video, I said that somebody gave me an explanation of like, oh, one of the pictures, they didn't know, like Vaush didn't know, he thought it was like Princess Midna Ash or whatever, and like it was some type of mistake like that. But since then, people have looked into this even more, and he's even come out himself on his stream and explained what was on there, and it's just not good. It's just not, there is no way to really explain this away.
The other one is like a threesome with two chicks and a guy. And in retrospect, looking at it, knowing now that that artist is a lolicon, yeah, I can see it. When I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like short stack, thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way like goblins get drawn in porn. You'll have to entertain me for a moment on this presumed shared knowledge of how goblins get drawn in pornography. But you know how they're all like thick short stacks, right?
If there's any room for wiggling, like you should not be there. You're already in a place you should not be. And then there was a couple of them that were just, like you said, absolutely were like drawn by a lolly artist. Like 100%. And then he says, looking at it now through this lens that I'm educated that this is the artist, I can see how it's suspicious and look kind of young. And it's like, dude, you're talking to your audience like they're babies. And the problem is, because of the cult of personality, because of parasocial relationships, they are okay with being treated like babies. Because that happens everywhere, right? People just turn into stupid idiots and can't think even a little bit if they idolize somebody, if they really truly like somebody. And when you give an explanation like that, and you have to, it's like, look at it in a lens objectively. Or how about do an exercise and look at it in the lens of somebody you hate? If there is somebody that you can't stand and they gave you all of those explanations, they went through the same stuff, they had all the same arguments, they had Lolly on their computer, and they gave you that explanation, would you even believe them even a little bit? Would you think that is a credible thing to say? Would you excuse their behavior? Of course not. So you're seeing these people that really idolize Vaush and they just love him, and they're saying, oh, because he's done so much. It's like, what the fuck? What does that have to do with anything? What's that? Because how well and how much good they've done. Well, then now it's just, oh, doesn't it turn into, it's a damn shame. That's what it turns into. It turns into, it's a damn shame what the world's gonna do for pedos like me. Wait, what? I'm just kidding, Oliver Anthony. You have nothing to do with this. You're no pedo. Oh man, this is such a crazy situation, and it's very eye-opening in a way that I guess Ethan Klein and maybe even myself thought, oh man, this might be like Vaush might even take a little bit of a hit on this. Now, I think Ethan was thinking, oh, Vaush is done, he's completely done, but seeing the writing on the wall of how the response was, how there was people running defense for him at all, I was like, oh no, he's not going to be done. There's going to be a lot of people that probably won't want to mess with him anymore. They probably won't want to associate with him. They probably will be like, I'm staying out of this. But as far as there being like a huge campaign to like, get rid of him, I haven't seen it. And so I got to say H3, like some people are so, like I was just seeing responses. There's a handful of people that are, they're combing over all the stuff and all the discourse. There's a guy named Nicholas DeOrio who's in the commentary community in YouTube that's been documenting a lot of this stuff. And I've been seeing stuff on his timeline of people just running hard defense and going hard in the paint on Ethan Klein and saying he's lost his mind and this and this and that. And it's like, bro, he has said nothing. Like, there's nothing. He's done nothing that is even remotely unreasonable. The only difference is he's going hard in the paint on somebody that you love and have a parasocial relationship with. That is literally the only difference. I don't watch the H3 podcast. I know they trash people all the time. All the time they trash people. That is what they do. It's a drama show. And nobody has said anything before. Like, there's been this huge crazy reaction from the the leftist community on YouTube or whatever. I'm sure there was some stuff going on when him and Hassan stopped doing their podcast. But besides that, I've never seen any type of reaction like that to anybody else, David Dobrik or whoever else they went after. Nah, this is like, oh, you go after this guy for something that is morally reprehensible, for something that is should be objectively bad. You shouldn't own drawings of cartoon girls doing crazy stuff to horses. I mean, I'm sorry. And then your excuse that like, oh, I thought she was short and stocky like a sexy goblin or something. Like, what kind of excuse is that? It's like, is she a goblin? I mean, I think goblins are pretty obvious how goblins look. They're usually green and have huge pointy ears and stuff. And I thought it was like Princess Ash Midna or something, because I think there's the versions, and I went over this in the other one, how she has multiple versions of that character, and one of them is like some tiny little furry thing, but it's like, yeah, that's weird that you're into that one and not the tall woman version, like the full version, the actual version of who she actually is. It's weird that you're into these other ones. It's like, it's just not a good look, man. There's no way to spin it. It's a bad look. And seeing so many people run defense, some people even in the commentary community themselves and the leftist community that are running defense and gaslighting everybody. They keep saying stuff, oh, bad faith this, bad faith that. Oh, the clips are out of context. Just so and so far, literally cookie cutter stuff. And the biggest sin out of this whole discourse, which I should have mentioned in the beginning, is that Vaush didn't even watch the stream on Friday. He didn't even know what the hell was said. He got all of his information secondhand from his fans, from his parasocial cult-like fans. He knows how stupid that is. Vaush isn't a complete moron in that sense. He knows that you can't trust information from those people when it pertains to stuff about him. Of course, they're going to soften it up to not hurt his feelings. They're going to say, oh, it's just a bunch of BS. It's like yes men, right? If you have to give somebody, it's like, I remember Trump, he would say, if you have to give me news, you have to start it with something good, put the bad stuff in the middle, and then end off with something good, right? Like you just nerfing the news, and you have yes men to do it, and that's what Vaush has. So completely unreliable, and he did a stream and a response based off of that shit instead of just watching the stream himself, because obviously he doesn't want to face the reality. That's why he even canceled doing a stream with Ethan. They're like, oh, we're going to do it. Come on my channel and we'll do it. And Ethan agreed. And then he's like, oh, I saw you talking trash about my audience on Instagram. Bye. You know, it's just like, oh, convenient excuse. Convenient excuse. But it's one of those things. It's just weird seeing somebody like an egomaniac just behaving in this way. It's like, this is 101 type stuff. Someone who doesn't have shame, someone who doesn't have humility, because they would be like, dude, yeah, I know some of this stuff's sketchy. Like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, guys. I let you down. I got to do better. But the problem is, all those crazy fans of his, they don't think he did anything wrong because a lot of them partake in the same stuff. A lot of them are from Destiny's Discord when Vaush was in Destiny's Discord. If you don't know who Destiny is, he's another political streamer. And that's where Vaush started off, just being in the community, but then he broke off and did his own thing. Apparently, he got banned from Destiny's Discord because he was being a sexual deviant and harassing people. There are people that have come out and said things about him, and people, like his fans, ignore it. But if it was anybody else, they would go hard in the paint on them, right? If it was someone they disliked and they saw, here are victims, here are people that are saying their experience with this dude, and you believe the victims, and you're like, fuck this other guy. But you just run defense for Vaush because you like him so much. It's bullshit, it's insanity, and it's sad. Because it's more sad to see this behavior from people on the progressive side of things, right? The left eating their own, the right eating their own. That happens. Like, okay, Crowder beefing with Ben Shapiro, or blah 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 beefing with Candace. Like it all happens, and you see the left. Hassan, I guess, doesn't like Vaush, and all these people don't like each other and shit. That's just normal in this. These people that see themselves all gaudy and shit. All these people have massive egos, right? You got to have a little bit of an ego to do this stuff. Even at the levels of me where I'm very self-deprecating. To a little bit, you can have a burst of confidence to be like, people want to hear what I have to say. I'm going to record a thing and then upload it. It's a little bit of an ego, right? But like then there's the people need to hear what I have to say. And I'm righteous and justify anything that I do that is clearly wrong between like, say, consensus of the public. You're just like, nope, whatever. I have this big audience that's going to ride for me, and I'm just going to plug my ears and just listen to what they're saying, and I'll make myself feel better. Not cool. Not cool at all, man. But we'll see where this goes. Let's see where this ends up. I don't think Vaush is going to do anything different. Is there going to be an actual discussion? I don't think so. I think Ethan and his crew did a fantastic job combing through a lot of stuff because I learned a lot. I didn't know, like, when you would have these people getting clips and you would hear all these people, they call it clip chimping. Like, when you hear all of those people saying, oh, it's out of context, out of context, out of context. And to be honest, I'm like, I was one of those people that kind of fell for it. I'm like, oh, so he's making this sort of arguments, he's doing this, but then when you see clip after clip after clip after clip, and then when you see that stuff in his folder, and this is just the iceberg of the folder, the tip of the iceberg of the folder. What's in all the other folders that were there? Was a tax one. Usually the tax ones has the worst stuff in it, right? That's what a lot of people do. But like, go through it. What else is in there? Do you think that is literally the only shit that's there? Like, just by Occam's razor over the years and years that he's had this stuff, because apparently he's leaked this on accident before, back in 2019. And so you think that is the worst of it? Or that's only it? Like, how stupid and naive do you have to be? It's just like one of those things where I'm like, dude, it's a situation where I think those people will ride for him no matter what. It's the type of thing that he could literally convince all those people to drink spiked Kool-Aid. Like, they're at that level, right? You see it and you're like, wow, they're at that level. There's a lot of people at that level in politics in general. And it's like, damn, here we go again. Another cult leader pops up and then they can pretty much they'll ride for you. And luckily, most people that are cult leaders nowadays aren't trying to have a mass, event where everybody takes their own life or something. Well, at least we're lucky about that. Because I think it would be very easy for people to do it if they wanted to. But I don't know. I guess that's all I got to say on it. Let me know what you guys think of the situation, man. I think this is such a weird situation. Just objectively. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. It's just like, what the hell is this? All right, take care, guys.